so I would have come home with like a full face of makeup, and he knows that I don't wear that much makeup. So what I had to do was like take some of it off on the way home. And then I was thinking, when I pull up onto the drive as well, what if he sees the bag, like this bag of lingerie? Like, how am I going to explain that to him? So I'm thinking like, oh God, like, how am I going to explain that?
The Red Room. Welcome to episode 1. So I have a special guest, Joanna. Joanna is an ex-employee, staff member. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Jo.
Yeah, sure. So I'm 27 years old. I'm a part-time freelance model. I'm from Doncaster. I've been modelling for, around a year and a half now. A bit of a mixture, you know, I've done some brand stuff, a little bit of commercial, TV adverts. I've done a little background extra for TV soaps, drama, etc. So sort of just like here, there and everywhere. For me, it's a creative hobby. I like to keep involved with because I work full time as well. So it creates like a really good balance inside my mind because my full-time role is very demanding and like professional and it's very sales driven, so this keeps me very creative. It's a very good balance in my mind.
All right, cool. So how did you get into modeling then?
Oh God, it's a really, really funny story actually. So sorry, I'm blushing.
One thing I'll say is you see all these models on Instagram, TikTok, portray all this confidence, and in reality that's not the case, is it?
No, it's really not. Like, oh my God, like I am confident, like in person and at work and everything like that, you know, socializing. I'm so confident. But as soon as you put a camera in front of me, like that's it. I get a little bit like brain fog and like I start stuttering and everything. So just please bear with me.
No, that's cool.
Okay, so how did I get into modeling? Now, it's a long story. It's a funny story, but I'm going to break it down as much as I can. So I never actually aspired to become a model. I never actually sat and thought I want to be a model. So what happened was I entered a competition on Facebook where there was giving away like a free photo shoot. And I was like, oh, buzzing, I'm going to enter that. And then I didn't even expect anything to come of it. And I won it. So they messaged me, they reached out to me, they rang me. They were like, yeah, you've won. When do you want to come for your photo shoot? I'm like, oh, buzzing. So like, yeah, I can come here. So it was so close. My ex-fiance at the time, what I was going to do, it was very close to our anniversary, our 3-year anniversary. So I thought, what an amazing present. I can go get like a nice saucy photo shoot done and then gift him the photos for his anniversary present. So organised a shoot, went and had the shoot done. But obviously being completely oblivious to like the photography industry and to the modelling industry, I wasn't aware. I didn't even know like how much a photo shoot was. I don't know how much you pay for photos or anything like that. So I had the photo shoot. And then after that, they hit me with extortionate prices to actually buy the photos, and I'm like, what? Like,
doesn't sound like something you won then, does it?
No, that's the thing as well, because it was in Manchester and I live in Doncaster, and that day of the shoot, it was my friend's Erin's like 28th birthday, so I planned to go there after. So I went there after and I told him what happened, and her boyfriend Jack, he was just like proper ripping into me. He was just like, so you didn't win anything? Like you've ended up paying for photos, and you won a photo shoot, but you've paid for the photo.
Sounds like a scam to me, doesn't it?
It's not a scam. That's just how they draw people in. You know, it's for like a marketing perspective. It's like, you know, there's psychology behind that. You know, they get women in and they make them feel all good, give them the photo shoot. Oh, here's a price for the photos, by the way. It's like, but after you've had the shoot and you see the photos, of course you're gonna buy them. Like,
what did you pay?
Oh my goodness, you'll die. So it was, at first, they hit me with like 550 quid as the minimum package. For like,
so you owe me a bit of cash in, don't you?
Do you know, every photographer says that when I tell them the story. So it was like 550 quid for like 5 photos. And then the price packages went up. It was like 850 for like 10 photos and like 1,200 quid for like 15 photos. So I'm like, right, okay. I thought, the photo shoot's done now. Like, I may as well just splash out a bit of cash. Like, I want my photos. I want it to be worth something. I've made the journey. I've taken time out and everything. But I did like try and like haggle with them a little bit. I thought 550 quid for three to 5 photos. It's extortionate. Anyone will agree that's extortionate. So there were a couple of emails going backwards and forwards. I say, look, I don't mind paying, but I want more photos than that. So in the end, after about a week of exchanging emails, I ended up paying like 500 for 8 photos. I got 8 photos, and they even charged me for the USB as well. They charged me like 35 quid for the USB. So I'm like, right, okay, it's done now. I'll just take my photos and we'll call it a bad experience. So by the time I'd actually done the shoot, what was supposed to be like a good experience, it came up to my anniversary with my ex at the time, gave it to him and like let him look through, and I'm like, you better appreciate that. Because it was just such like
What's the funny part of the story then?
The funny part of the story is what was supposed to be a good experience, and what I thought I was getting a free photo shoot with free photos, I ended up out of pocket for like 500 quid.
What did your ex-fiance have to say about the...
He just found it funny. Like, I told him the story behind
Do you like the pictures?
Yeah, he did like the photos. He did. I mean, the photos...
Could he not have just dressed you up and took pictures on his iPhone? And...
Well, yeah, but looking at it from that perspective, it's like something a little bit more like, don't know, valuable, if you like.
I don't know. I mean, if I was in his shoes, I'd rather take the pictures myself and save £500, but...
Yeah, but we didn't know we were going to be paying for it.
Yeah,
to be fair, he didn't know either. That's another like funny part of the story, because I didn't tell him that I was going for the photo shoot, so I had to like hide it. As I had to just say, oh, I've got like 2 meetings in Manchester, I'm going to be out most of the day. But the thing is, so I was taking out like a bag of lingerie and like heels and everything, and they did my makeup all night. So I would have come home with like a full face of makeup, and he knows that I don't wear that much makeup. So what I had to do was like take some of it off on the way home. And then I was thinking, when I pull up onto the drive as well, because normally when I used to pull up onto the drive, he'd come out and like greet me, and he's all like bopping around and he'd get stuff out of his car and everything. But like, what if he sees the bag, like this bag of lingerie? Like, how am I going to explain that to him? So I'm thinking like, oh God, like, how am I going to explain that? But luckily by the time I'd got home, I would just like ran in and like just like threw the bag in the bedroom. So I like...
Mission successful.
Mission successful, yeah. Okay. Mission successful.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
But anyway, how I actually got into modelling.
Is that not the story?
Well, this is like the lead up to the story. So after I told him like the story behind that photo shoot, he said to me, we were just like, why don't you like send these photos off to like an agency or something, and you like try and make a little bit of money back, try to do something with them. I just thought that, do you know what, like I will, like that's not a bad shout. So did a little bit of digging on laptop, and then I found a platform called Purpleport, which is a modelling and photographer platform online where you can have like a portfolio on there, you can build references and you can exchange bookings, etc. So I thought, oh, I'll give that a go. I uploaded some photos onto there, wrote like a little bit about myself, online portfolio. Again, I didn't think anything would come of it. I didn't really expect anything out of it. Literally checked it like 2-3 days later, and I had like 13 messages on there with like photographers like offering to shoot with me, and one was actually a swimwear brand as well, not a big one. She was just starting out, and the shoot was in Manchester. So I'm looking for 2 models. I really like your look. Do you want to come shoot in Manchester this Friday? So I'm like, oh, buzzing, like, yeah, I'll go do that. And then it just grew. It just grew from there. Like got myself on Instagram. I didn't have Instagram back then either. And to be fair, the modeling, I kept it a secret for like 3 months, because I'm quite humble, like if I do something new and whatever I do, I like to just like keep it quiet until it's quite well established, and then I'll shout about my results. And then my friends were like, oh, you need to get on Instagram, I'm like, oh, okay, like, yeah, I can do that. Got myself on Instagram, uploading, and then here I am today.
All right, wicked. I remember there was a girl who called me once when I was in the office, and she was quite deflated because she went to a casting walk-in for a company, which I won't mention, in Birmingham.
Are you talking about me?
and then fast forward a few weeks later, I think an important part of this story is we onboarded you to Elite Portfolio Management, didn't we?
Yeah, no, I was already onboarded.
Hey, you wasn't?
Yeah, I was.
Was you?
Yeah, because I came to Box, for the Black Friday.
It was after, wasn't it?
No, it weren't. It was before.
Was it after? My version of the story has happened after, but if yours...
No, it was definitely, because that's how we met. How would you have called me?
Well, I tell you what though, in terms of, I think that experience with Boxed and myself, I think that's something worth talking about.
Absolutely.
Just to give it a context. So I think one of Joanna's first big production that I facilitated was with a studio called Box. These guys have done Gymshark, Selfridges, Trapstar, Hoodrich, JD.
It was a guy called Tom.
Yeah.
Studio.
So it's proper, it's legit. And tell me about your experience for the day.
Yeah, it was a really, really good day. So it was Rayhan at the time reached out to me on Instagram.
Yeah, one of the guys.
Yeah, one of the guys reached out to me on Instagram and they say, we've got this coming up with a new sportswear brand. It's due to launch on Black Friday. I remember as well because it was like really, really short notice. And it was like, it's on Friday.
That's the industry though, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the industry. Everything's like forever changing last minute. And yeah, he said, let me know if you're interested and I'll put your details forward to the project manager. And then it was yourself who reached out to me. We had a chit chat on the phone, didn't we?
We did.
Yeah, and then that was like a Wednesday night, and then we went from there, didn't we? So I remember that day actually because you told me that there weren't a makeup artist, and we had to be there for like 8 a.m. in the morning. I thought, oh, for God's sake, I want to just get up at like 4, drive to Birmingham, do my hair and makeup, which is no problem.
Yeah.
But I got to the studio really, really early because I like my makeup to be fresh when it's when I'm doing a photo shoot. But I always arrive so early. I was sat in the corridor, just like sat on the floor on my phone, and then Tom came like 15 minutes later, and it was like, I've never had a model turn up early. I'm like, yeah, it's a key organisation.
Yeah.
But yeah, the experience itself, it was such a good vibe. We was all looked after. Everyone was involved. We were doing some behind the scenes. It was a full day, and then we broke for lunch, didn't we? And then we went out into the Birmingham city centre to get like some outdoor content. It ended up being a really long day, didn't it? Because we did some car park scenes. But no, got some really good shots out of that day. Was you happy?
Yeah, well, it was not bad. It's not bad. So I think the key things to take away. So obviously a lot of people watching this, they'll be interested in modelling, and the reason why I bring this up is because when you get into modelling, you'll speak to agencies and people will shoot you down and say you don't fit the criteria. And obviously at Elite Portfolio Management, we're a bit more open-minded and we like to diversify. Yeah, we want to diversify our talent pool and obviously give people an opportunity like Joe said. But also as well, it's one thing getting on an agency, but then what happens after? Like Joe had to travel, what's the drive? 90 minutes, 2 hours?
About 2 hours.
2 hours.
Under 2 hours, yeah.
So I think what people don't realise is to do productions, it can be at a minute's notice. You have to fly down, get from A to B.
Yeah.
Early hours, obviously for women, hair, makeup, all these other considerations. You've got to do that as well, and it's not easy, and people don't see that behind the scenes, do they?
Yeah, I think the most challenging part about the modelling industry is it can just be so demanding. Like I say, things are coming up at last minute, and you don't want to miss out on an opportunity. But for someone who works full time, and the boss or the working hours can be quite demanding. Unfortunately, if you don't have that flexibility during the week, you do miss out, unfortunately.
Yeah,
it's just how it is. It's just how it is. But, there's always opportunities coming as well. Everything's forever changing.
So let's talk about camera confidence then, because was that something for yourself that you developed naturally, or was it something that you had to work on?
Oh God, no. I've always had that, like since I was like in my teens or maybe even before, like any opportunity to get in front of a camera, like I was in front of that camera. It's funny because my dad's actually in the process of moving out, and when you move out, you're digging out all old stuff, aren't you? Yeah. And he's sending me like baby photos, like photos of me like in my toddlers and in my younger years, and I'm still like posing and pouting and everything. So I think it's just like it's always been in me. I don't know where it came from. Yeah. But yeah, it's definitely not something that I've had to work on. The only thing that I've had to work on is actually talking to the camera. I don't know why, because like I say, I'm always like really not shy and outgoing, but talking to the camera, I'm like, I just go a little bit numb. But I think a lot of people do suffer with that, don't they?
It depends, doesn't it? It depends. Like for myself, I'm not photogenic, but I've got no issues talking to a camera. Some people might be photogenic, or they might enjoy taking selfies and all that sort of stuff, photos, modelling shoots, studios, etc. But then even like yourself, you had to drink half a bottle of my alcohol just to do this.
Half a bottle, Jesus Christ. It was just something to take the edge off, guys.
Yeah.
Not an alcoholic or anything.
So the point I'm drawing this to is confidence then. So I think for me, like I've worked with a lot of models from around the world. I've seen them all. And what you see online on pictures, just keep it real. For women, a lot of the times, 95% of the time, heavily edited. And it's not necessarily an accurate reflection of
Absolutely,
who they are.
absolutely. You know, I've even got a transparency post on my Instagram. So there's a photo of the unedited raw version, and then there's the edited version right next to it. And I've had the photographer's permission to post this, but for me, I think displaying a level of transparency is so important in this industry, especially from a model's perspective. Let brands see what they're working with, and let photographers see what they're working with. Let people see the natural you, because like you say, what you see on Instagram, some of it can be heavily edited and
Filters
and everything like that. And, you know, I like people to see the natural side of me as well.
So the point, the reason I'm bringing that up is I think that impacts confidence.
Yes.
So
yeah, absolutely.
What's your view on confidence, particularly from a woman's perspective when it comes to...
Yeah, absolutely. So I think within this game, you've got to have high level of confidence, and that's not even just behind the camera. That's marketing yourself as well, and how you present yourself, because how you present yourself on social media, how you present yourself from the moment you walk through that door, and, you know, especially if you're working with the brands, they need to see that you're confident and that you are professional. It's one thing looking nice on camera, it's one thing being a pretty girl, it's one thing being in shape, but if you're not showing your confidence behind the camera, you're not going to give the photographer what he wants, because you're going to be stiff, you're going to be moving around like a block of concrete. And I'm talking from a personal perspective as well. I have got a little bit shy before behind the camera. The more stiff and uptight you are, the less results you're going to get in the photos, and that's not good for you, and that's not good for brands and photographers, etc. either. Yeah.
So you've done quite a number of shoots, and I appreciate they've been...
Over 100.
Okay, so that's good. In what, year's time?
A year and a half. So I count it via Purple Port with my references. So I've got 80 references on Purple Port, but that's only bookings through Purple Port, excluding Instagram.
Okay.
So I reckon off the top of my head, about 120.
It's quite substantial. Have you got any experiences you can share, good, bad, or ugly, with a photographer or studio?
Yeah, absolutely. To be fair, I've never had like a really, really bad experience with like a photographer or studio. You know, a lot of people do ask me this, like, have you had any like horror stories with photographers? Not really. Oh gosh, trying to think.
If there isn't anything, there isn't anything.
No, I can't really say that.
You've been quite fortunate.
I have been very fortunate, yeah. I've fallen quite lucky.
Have you heard of any instances?
Yeah, so, and you know what?
Just to give a bit of context, at the end of the day,
absolutely.
there'll be women out there that'll see people like yourself, they'll be inspired. Oh, okay, a year and a half, start off as a shoot. They might even reach out to elite portfolio management and say, look, can you guys help? But then they need to know like the full...
They need to know the full... Yeah, absolutely.
So what could they expect? What's realistic and what's to expect? What could they perhaps be aware of?
Yeah.
Wary of?
I think for me, who's been in the game over a year now, I mean, with photographers, now I'm not talking about anyone in particular, but I can like filter it out very, very easily now just by receiving one text message or DM off a photographer. Now, there's a photographer who's very passionate and takes his photography career very, very seriously, and he wants to be successful. He wants to make a career out of it. And then you've got like just a guy on his camera who wants to just shoot half naked girls or maybe even naked, what have you. I can sort of fish those out now. So there was one guy who reached out to me. This was on Instagram as well. He reached out to me. It was like, how much for a full day? I'm going to book an Airbnb. And I'm like, what? And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, well, what do you want? And he's like, oh yeah, I shoot models in like this Airbnb, you know, how much for the full day? And then I looked at his Instagram, and it was just screaming out, you know, I just want to spend the day and just shoot the girl like half naked. It was just like your tacky boudoir stuff. And I don't mean to shame, you know, just there's the sort of stuff that is just not for me. So that's really the only thing I would say, you know, just be wary of people like that. Like, make sure you're doing like full, not background checks, but check for references, you know, check what models they've worked with.
Due diligence.
Yeah, of course. Once you've been doing it long enough, like you can just smell it. Like,
but what's the prevention of a cure? So what should, you know, female models who are looking to start up, obviously if they're with a company like Elite Portfolio Management, we vet everything out, it's all kosher, but obviously freelance.
Yeah, exactly.
What should they look out for? Because you don't want someone to go through a situation, have an experience, and then, you know, what do they call it, like red flags? Or...
Red flags. I think over complimenting is a big one. You know, I always find that when they're over complimenting me too much, I just think I don't even think sometimes they want to shoot. They just want to get into a conversation, and they're just a little bit lonely. I'm like, right, what's your game here? I always think as well, if it's someone who's reached out to you on Instagram and they've hardly got no posts or no followers as well, be wary of that.
You describing B? I'm joking.
Yeah. You know, like I say, always check for references and always pay attention to models that they've worked with previously, etc. Is what I would say. And, you know, I always ask, you know, have you got, if someone reaches out to me on Instagram, I always say, have you got purple port, just so I can check your references. Some of them haven't, but then you just look at their Instagram, and if it's consistent work and, you know, they're tagging other models and everything, that's fine. You know, I'm happy to go with that. But, you know, just going back to from a lead perspective, if you've got representation behind you, then you're obviously fine, because you guys vet them out and everything, and it's more like brands who you guys are working with, rather than just one-to-one with photographers. Exactly. So just carrying off on that. So like when I say one-to-one with photographers, so a lot of my work is, you know, photographers will reach out to me, or I'll meet them at networking events, etc. And they need to keep their portfolio up to a high standard so they can keep pitching themselves to brand. And in order to do that, they need to work with freelance models in the background. So they'll reach out to me, they'll say, I'm doing some test shooting, I'm doing some portfolio development. Can you come and shoot with me? Well, what are your rates, etc.
Oh, sometimes it's TFP, isn't it? Time for
TFP,
print.
yeah. So I do 1 TFP a month with selected photographers, or photographers that I've met, or photographers that I've been following on Instagram, who I really, really like the work, and I know it will complement my portfolio. For me, my portfolio it's a never-ending project. It'll never be finished. I'm always looking at it thinking like, right, what now? What theme can I do? Like, what can I do with it next? Which photographer can I work with next, etc.
Yeah, and it's good practice to update your portfolio at least once every 6 months. Looks change.
Oh, absolutely. I'm updating mine once a month.
Okay, that's really good.
Yeah.
That's good. So, thanks for sharing some of your insights and your background in terms of modelling. Have you got any interesting projects or any campaigns that you're working on, or at this moment in time, that you can disclose?
Yeah, so I've always had an interest in cars, and my goal within modelling is to get onto a car commercial. Now, I'm not aiming too high. I'm not saying I'm going to be on like Audi or anything like that.
Why are you not aiming high?
I don't know, really. I don't know. I always think, you know, walk before you can run. Start off small.
Aim for the stars.
Yeah, exactly. I like to keep it realistic. You know, I'm not particularly bothered which car manufacturer it is. I've always seen myself on like maybe like a billboard or something, maybe not even necessarily a car commercial, even if it's just stills. So that's my aim. I did work with a car photographer who I've been like, not stalking, but I've been trying to work with him for a couple of months now, and he's a very, very professional car photographer. He's done car commercials too, but it was just been so hard to pin down. Finally shot with him about a month ago. So we hired a Porsche Taycan. Yeah. He hired one of them. So we shot over the course of 2 days in different locations, because he wanted that for his portfolio as well. So I'm just waiting for the images to come back from that. And then when they do, I'm going to market myself on LinkedIn. So I've connected with like MDs and marketing managers, etc., to market myself basically.
Okay. So I think what you just shared is a really good way to think outside the box as a model.
Yeah.
And if you are a new face model, number one, follow Elite Portfolio Management, apply if you're interested. But number two, if you go the freelance route, which Joanna has, you know, don't just think about Instagram as a tool and a platform. LinkedIn, speak to marketing manager.
Yeah,
very good.
Absolutely. You know,
very good tip there.
Yeah, sorry. And I always get, what I love about this as well is to say that I'm not even that experienced. I do get a lot of models reaching out to me on Instagram saying, you know, like, we really love your work. Like, what do you do? And I'm like, oh, you know, that it's really nice. It's really fulfilling. And the tool that I always give, and I reiterate this message very, very strongly across Instagram in my posts as well, you know, don't put all your eggs in one basket just because you've had one photo shoot. Don't just think that's it. Always strive to build on that and target your brands. Think outside the box, you know, without trying to sound horrible, but each model, we're all in this for the same game. What have you got that she hasn't got? You know?
What's unique? What's unique?
Always think, what's unique about you? Why should that brand work with you? and not the thousands of other models that are also sending in their portfolios and the agencies that are representing to them. Think outside the box. So, like I say, with myself, with the car commercial goal, actually put some time and effort into my portfolio to get a car photo shoot. LinkedIn is a powerful tool. So if you're not on there already, get on there and connect with the brands that you want to work with and market yourself that way. Make yourself seen.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Right. Okay. Anything else you want to add on to the modeling aspect, or are you happy with
No, I think
your story there so far?
yeah, I think I'm happy with my story there so far.